yes, of course I don't know what the individual members are going to say, but certainly there's the broad issue of artists and others who, non-Aboriginal, who do Aboriginal work. They've been influenced by Aboriginal work, and now there's on one hand outright fakes who pretend they're Aboriginal, and nobody I think respects that. But the real issue I think comes from people say like Bill Home, who know Aboriginal art, are respected by Aboriginal artists, and indeed have some influence on educating Aboriginals and others about art. I'm quite a fan of Bill Home, as I know, for example, Robert Davidson also is. So it's in that nexus of just what perceptions are. And so often the perceptions that matter, as in other things, are by those who aren't really fully informed. So we'll have a gallery owner here, of course artists, you've already talked to, or certainly Simon James is one of those, with different views on this. And so it's going to have a discussion of what these differences are. Of course, my own knowledge is not based on artistry at all. It's on politics, government, land claims, those sorts of things. But it all ties in. It all ties in. In a certain sense, the people who should be here undoubtedly will not be here, because there's a group, generally older, but not exclusively, been here for quite a while, who somehow feel threatened by the notion that there was a very substantial native presence here before, and long before, Europeans and others arrived. This threatens them somehow. And as I've mentioned, there's even the myth that there were no Aboriginal people here because the land was cursed. They would not come here. And that happens to be a common story among non-Aboriginals, common belief across this province. So it's a very revealing thing, but I'm sure that people who have that point of view will not be here. So the people who come here, they're open to ideas, they're interested, they know a little bit, they want to know more, and certainly with our panel, they're going to get what they've come for. And again, I'll be learning lots myself at this panel, but at this moment, it seems to be that you've got, on the one extreme, fraud and fakery. Now, some of those are just clearly people who are pretending to be, claiming to be, or at least claiming that the art they're selling is produced by native people. That's one line. At a more interesting level, we have people like Grey Owl, Archie Blaney from England, who came and presented himself to the world as a native person on the prairies. He wrote books and publicized, what we would now call ecological issues, beavers and so on. So he wasn't gaining from it so much, but he was still a fraud. But today we've got a good many persons who are not themselves Aboriginal, but who practice in ways that anybody else would say, that is Aboriginal when they see it. And that is a very complex issue, because in some cases those people are acknowledged and recognized, as Bill Home, for example, and there's others. Good friends of Robert Davidson, for example, teachers of Robert Davidson. But then there are those who think Aboriginal, the word Aboriginal art or whatever can be applied only to works produced by a person who is himself or herself Aboriginal. So that's what we're going to be talking about in part in this panel.